Why 80% of car salesmen quit in their first year. Check it out. What's going on, guys? It's Corey. So a lot of you might not know, right? Here's a stat that 80% of car salesmen typically quit in their first very year in the industry, right? So I want to talk about the harsh reality of the car business that probably a lot of them are, weren't expecting, right? The top reasons they quit and how you can beat the odds if you're watching this and you're brand new to the game. Maybe this is your first year or you're thinking about getting into the car sales industry and you just want to make sure that it's actually a good choice. So let's jump into it. So here's the harsh reality of car sales that most people, typically don't expect when they jump in the game. First things first is typically the hours, right? A lot of people, they come from, the hourly paid world where you typically, are, 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And you jump into the car sales game and you think it's going to be something similar in the very beginning. Eventually you can get to that point once you've built up a big enough pipeline, especially if you're generating, your own business, things of that nature. You can get to the point where you're working, 40 hours a week, or some guys even less, and still produce at an extremely high level. But normally in the beginning, you're going to be expected to work, 50, 60 plus hours in a week, right? And if you're not the type of person that's used to that and you weren't expecting it, that can catch you by surprise, right? That's going to, be number one. Number two is the inconsistency, right? When it comes to pay, right? If you come from the hourly paid world, which most people, come from, like I said, right? The inconsistency in pay can be big, right? Because at an hourly paid job, you have a task that you complete on a daily basis, right? You clock in a certain amount of hours and at the end of the week or at the end of the 2 weeks and whatever your pay cycle is, you're going to get paid X amount because it's hourly pay times, the amount of hours that you put in, and you can already calculate throughout the week how much money that you're going to be making, right? So when you jump into the car sales game and you get paid commission, you're like, wait, I'm putting in these hours, but it's not directly correlated to the amount of money that I'm going to be making, right? And you're like, okay, hold up. The inconsistency kind of takes people aback a little bit. Another thing is like the first 30 days, right? You're going to get bombarded with information. You're going to be basically hearing like a whole new language. People are saying different acronyms that you've never heard before, ACV, LTV, right? Like all kinds of acronyms that, happen in the car business, and you kind of can get information overload, right? It's like, okay, I'm taking in all this information. It's not really sticking. Things are, moving fast. Customers going in and out. You might see, a quote unquote fire that's happening in the showroom. Not a literal fire. What I mean is like a customer is pretty heated. Manager is handling it. The porters are moving cars in and out. Things are happening. It's very fast paced and you're like, whoa, what do I do? So that can also happen as well. What's going on, everyone? So a lot of you may be interested in figuring out how you can sell more cars or just make more money in general. Listen, click the first link in the description to join the Smarter Salesman University community. Once again, click the first link in the description to join the Smarter Salesman University community. I'm looking forward to helping you out, see if we can share some nuggets with you. More importantly, looking forward to meeting you. Let's get back to the video. Another thing is usually the training, right? Unlike most industries, the car industry is pretty much notorious for this, where, you come in and you don't really get trained, right? They kind of just throw you in the fire and you're kind of expected to figure it out, right? So this can lead you to, trying to figure things out on your own, trying to ask questions to the people that's been doing it. And some guys might be helpful. A lot of people are not, right? Because in reality, you're competition, right? You're on the floor. They've seen so many people come and go, right? The turnover rate in the car industry is super high. So a lot of people just, managers themselves or car salesmen on the floor, they just get disinterested in helping the new guy. So be prepared for that. Be prepared for that when you jump into the car sales game. But, if you're here watching a channel like this, or if you're, the type of person like I was, where, you're just not going to let that stop you. You're going to figure the information out. You're going to stick through it, then you'll be fine. So let's jump into the top reasons they actually end up quitting in their very first year, right? Number one, let's write this down, is they rely on dealership traffic solely. So when you first jump into the game, if you strictly are relying on dealership traffic, typically this is going to be ups, right? Because when you first get into the car sales industry, you're probably not going to make it into the internet department, right? Because they don't trust you on the phones yet. You just got in. You're probably not going to get any BDC bones. BDC is probably going to give them to the people that's been in the game, that they've already built some type of connections with. Like, right, if you're the new person, you don't have that trust yet, right? You're probably not going to be able to get some service drive customers, whatever the case may be. Sometimes you can. A lot of the times there's already guys that, have specific positions at your store that's their job to get those opportunities, and also for phone ups as well, right? You're probably not going to get many phone ups because other people are going to be prioritized to be able to, respond to those leads. So most of the time you're going to be reserved to waiting outside for opportunities, waiting for ups. Well, if you don't get enough ups, right, that's going to lead to you not making enough income or inconsistent income to where you eventually say, you know what, I'm done with this, right? I'm not going to do that. So number one is they rely on dealership traffic. Not enough ups means inconsistent paychecks. Inconsistent paychecks means instability. Instability means, bye, right? I'm out of here. More than likely is what's going to happen. Number two, and this is one that kind of sneaks up on people. Maybe they don't even know about it, right? Maybe they don't analyze themselves and, label this as the reason to why they leave, but is they can't handle rejection. So expect, to get rejected a lot if you jump into the car sales industry, right? In sales in general, if you're selling a product and you're calling people, trying to pitch your product in some type of way, right? You're going to get rejected. That's part of the game, right? Over time, you end up building a, thick skin where that doesn't really affect you anymore, right? But in the beginning, most people, this is actually, why they end up quitting. Because imagine you come from a world where, like I say, you get paid hourly. Let's just say you work a desk job or let's say you work behind the counter as a cashier or something like that, right? Just, a normal hourly paid job. Well, you have a certain task. You're probably never going to get rejected is the point that I'm making, right? You fulfill a certain task. If you're checking people out, they're bringing their items to the scanner, you scan it for them, you bag their things up and you keep it pushing, right? You don't really face confrontation. You don't really face rejection much, right? But now if you get into the car sales game, you're calling customers, you're trying to see if they're interested in trading in their vehicle, right? You're trying to talk to people that are on the lot, try to see if they're, ready to buy their car. Be prepared to hear the word no, right? Be prepared to, for people to reject you. And a lot of people are not ready for that. And they jump into the car sales game and they allow that to take a toll on them, right? One bad day feels like a terrible month, right? It feels like they just lost the entire week or something like that, right? And it starts plaguing in their mind and something they're consistently thinking about. And next thing you know, their entire mood or, their actions are off, which leads to eventual no performance, which leads to them leaving the industry. Number three is they don't treat it like a craft, AKA they don't operate it like a business within a business, which is something we talk about a lot here. Most car salesmen, they never treat it like a craft, right? They never work on actually sharpening their skills, right? If you have a craft, if let's say your craft was, basketball, whatever the case may be, you probably would play basketball every single day. You would watch basketball videos. You would train on basketball, right? To improve in basketball. This is how you become a AKA Michael Jordan or LeBron or whatever the case may be, right? Most car salespeople, they don't look at it in that manner. They just come to work, they show up, they do what they're told, they do the bare minimum and never actually work on sharpening their skills to improve or to get a better outcome, right? So they can produce more. That's what you would do in any other field if that was your profession, right? Like especially sports is a good example because it can help you understand that dynamic. But most people, when they get into the car sales game, they don't learn. They don't work on their sales skills. They don't work on their marketing skills. They just do the bare minimum. They show up, they do what they're told, and then they bounce. Well, if you never do that, then that's going to lead to inconsistent months. That's going to lead to unpredictability. If you don't have skills, if you don't sharpen your skills, you're never going to improve, right? So you either stay stagnant or your performance takes a hit. And over a long enough time period, a month goes by, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. If you're consistently staying the same and you're not improving, well, if you're not growing, then typically you're dying, right? And if you're dying, then you're probably going to say, you know what, this isn't for me, and you're going to quit. Number 4 is financial inconsistency. So we've talked about this a little bit already, right? Is the financial inconsistency in the industry, especially if you rely on a dealership, if you don't have the outlook like you're running your own business within the business, if you're not working on your craft, then you're gonna have certain months that maybe if traffic is good, if you're relying on walk-ins, where you have a good month, you might make $6 grand, $8 grand, I don't know, you might have a decent paycheck, for your standards, right? And then next month, traffic slows down, boom, you're down to $3, $4 grand a month, or whatever the case may be, or even less, right? You don't even cover your draw, right? So you have no commission check. Well, that financial inconsistency can lead to people saying, you know what, I'm out of here, right? I'm leaving, because they come from a world where, like I said, if most people make that transition from hourly pay to the car sales industry, well, your past was you work a certain amount of hours, for sure you're going to get paid X amount of dollars. This is a bit different, right? This is 100% commission for the most part. You get paid off your production. You get paid off of what you actually produce out there. So if you don't do the things required to, actually have a consistent paycheck, right? Like generating, customers, running it like a business within a business, sharpening your skills, things of that nature, then you're probably going to say, you know what, this is not for me. And number 5, and this one is kind of on the dealership, but we live in a digital age now where this is not really much of an excuse. You can find support is, no support system. So the car sales industry has a very, sink or swim type of mentality, right? Like I said, your managers typically just throw you out there in that fire, and it's for you, to figure it out, make it out of that fire, or they throw you in the water and tell you, you know what, sink or swim, right? Figure it out. So a lot of the times, most people are not prepared for that. They're like, hey, I started this job. I thought I was going to get all this training, and I get started and I don't get too much training, and they just expect me to figure this game out. So a lot of people say, you know what, this is not for me, right? But nowadays, that's not much of an excuse anymore, right? You can still find ways for you to get that support that you need, get into communities, other car salespeople, things of that nature, or find the information that you need to actually be successful. If you're watching this video, right, you're already taking that step. So at the end of the day, it's always going to come back to you and how committed are you. So how do you actually beat the odds, right? How do you become the 20% and not the 80% if you actually want a long career in the car sales industry? Because this can be very lucrative, especially if you're watching this, you're not in the game yet, or if you just got into the car sales industry, right? This career or this industry can certainly make a lot of money if you know what you're doing, right? If you have a proper plan, if you set expectations correctly, and if you execute, you can make well over 6 figures selling cars, right? I did that at a very young age. So how do you beat the odds? Well, you need to set expectations. That's first, right? You also need to have a plan, right? You need to start planning out what you're going to do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and you need to execute on that plan. You need to focus on income producing activities. When you're at work, you need to focus on the things that actually produce income, right? These can be, you making phone calls. These can be you creating content to build your personal brand, right? And I would advise you definitely do that early, because if you can do that, establish a personal brand, establish, an online presence in your local marketplace, build trust with that audience that's local to you, you're going to get people reaching out to you, where now you can start building your own pipeline. So instead of being, the person that relies on the dealership, you generate your own leads outside of the dealership. This puts you in that mindset, like I always talk about, where you're running your own business within the business. And if you have that approach, then you're going to go out there and create your own opportunities, as opposed to waiting for opportunities to come to you, which is what most car salespeople do, which leads them down that path to eventually quit. You need to also influence the environment that you put yourself in, right? You need to, surround yourself with either mentors and people that are actually going to give you good advice, as opposed to the people that complain. One thing that you'll find in the car sales industry, is very easy for you to just get in a group of people, usually car salespeople, your peers, and just start talking about, how bad it is, or how there's no opportunities, or this dealership is dead, or whatever the case may be. If you surround yourself in that environment, that is going to be your reality, right? That's all you're going to be able to see. But if you, put yourself in a room, or surround yourself with people that, are looking to do better, or that can actually give you some good advice, or you come out here and start watching videos, or get surrounded in the community with people that are actually looking to help improve the situation and have more of that, like, quote unquote good energy, then, that's what you're going to see. That's what you're also going to find around you as well, as opposed to the opposite. And also just try to stack small wins on a daily basis, right? Like, hey, I'm going to try to make one appointment today. I'm going to try to see if I can get one referral this week, or whatever the case may be. Start stacking small wins, and you'll watch over time how that starts to compound. And in this game, it's all about how things compound, right? Because over time, as you're building your brand, as you're getting more notoriety, as time is going on, you're selling more cars. These things only begin to compound on themselves over time, which means more opportunities for you. And if you stay consistent and you keep your foot on the gas, right, then you're going to see your trajectory start going upwards. So that's why 80% of car salespeople typically quit in their first years, and that's how you can also beat the odds. So leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next, and I'll see you all in the next video. I'm glad you made it to the end of the video. I got 2 options for you. You can either watch the next video, or you can click the first link in the description to join the Smartest Salesman University community if you're ready to take your car sales career to the next level. I'm looking forward to helping you out, see if I can share some nuggets with you. More importantly, looking forward to meeting you. Have a blessed day.